Hello.
Hi everyone, happy Wednesday. It's Alysia and I'm very excited to be with you today, live from London Tech Week, overlooking the beautiful London skyline. The weather is absolutely glorious and the sun is shining outside. It's definitely the place to be today. Once again, we have an amazing session planned for you today. We have a panel of brilliant leaders and entrepreneurs joining us from across the globe, logging in to help you understand whether or not there really is a market for your product or service as an entrepreneur. I can't wait to hear what amazing insights are going to come out of today's session. As an entrepreneur, one of the greatest challenges many of us face is knowing whether there really is a market for our product and whether the time is right for us to actually take our products to market. We are often so generally working so hard that we lose objective perspective in terms of, are we working on the right product? Do we need to pivot? Is there really a business associated with something that could be classified as a hobby? Today, these questions are going to get answered for us. We have an awesome panel of VIP guests joining us, and they're going to help us understand this process and help us overcome the uncertainty associated with taking our businesses to market. Now, I know I've got you all really excited, so why don't I go ahead and introduce you to our VIP guests before asking them to properly introduce themselves to you. So, welcome to Alicante-based Jose Vuelta, who's a team, business, and community builder and innovator. Welcome to Monaco and India-based Manan Mehta, who's a deal sourcer, relationship manager, and corporate finance expert. Welcome to Delhi, India-based Satyam Vyas, who's a social entrepreneur, mass-scale life changer. Welcome back to Saji Matu, who's based in Alberta, Canada, and he's an investment banker, entrepreneur, and product innovator. And last but definitely not least, welcome to Nigeria-based Ibiwari Iloma Kemabonta, who's a travel entrepreneur, trainer, coach, and champion for women's empowerment. Now I'm going to ask each of our VIP guests to properly introduce themselves to you, starting with Manan. Manan, please say hi to everyone.
Hi, Alysia. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for that kind introduction.
Welcome, Manan. Very excited to have you join us. Satyam, please tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Hi guys. This is Satyam. I'm from New Delhi, India. I'm a social entrepreneur helping young people in achieving their true potential by connecting them to economic opportunities. I'm looking forward to talk about the challenges I've been facing in our tech-based platform and sharing more about my work.
Awesome. Welcome, Satyam. Ibiwari from Nigeria. Please say hi to everyone, Ibiwari.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ibiwari from Nigeria. I'm a travel entrepreneur, a coach, and I like to help women become who they want to be.
Welcome, Ibiwari. Very excited you're joining us. Saji, say hi to everyone.
Hello, everybody. I'm based out of Calgary, and I've done a variety of things, run a family business, and I have an app that we're about ready to launch right now, and that's pretty well my experiences, and I've raised money for real estate, large real estate investments as well.
Welcome back, Saji. Very excited to have you join us. And last but not least, Jose, say hi from Spain.
Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Jose Vuelta from Spain, and I'm busy here in the entrepreneurial ecosystem through the Founder Institute and other organizations, and also, well, giving a hand management for some ICT companies.
Welcome, Jose. Very excited to have you join us. Just before we jump into all our questions via VIPs, a few shout outs on the screen or contact details for our VIP guests. Feel free to reach out to them. Don't forget to keep sending your questions through to inspireme@onlinefiresidechat.com, and we'll do our very best to include them. Given how many of you are joining us today, we have community champions managing the chat room. So if you have a question for one of our VIP guests, feel free to send it through and we'll do our best to include it. Just a reminder, we have community champions and ever-growing meetup groups in over 80 cities in 55 countries around the globe, including in North and South America, the UK, Europe, Africa, the Middle East, India, Asia, and Australia. I'm not going to go through all the cities, but I am very excited that more and more entrepreneurs are joining us today. So welcome. If you'd like to meet up with one of your local chapters or you'd like to start your own, feel free to reach out to us and we'll put you in contact with one of our local community champions. On that note, as very big special thank you to all our volunteer champions from around the globe. You are the heart and soul of our community, and we would not be here today without you. Over the next few months, with all your help, we'll be sharing with and inspiring entrepreneurs in more than 100 countries. Together, we know we can make this goal come true. Thank you again to all our VIP guests for joining us today and sharing your knowledge and wisdom so generously and so freely with us. And thank you to our family of supporters and collaborators from around the developing world who once again hosting sessions for hundreds of entrepreneurs who don't have access to necessary bandwidth to understanding English language to join our sessions on their own. Thank you to all the ministers, government ministries, ambassadors, UN offices, US Embassy Corners, British Council offices, university campuses, schools, business incubators, Chamber of Commerce's, community centers, radio stations, and media for all your weekly hosting support and for raising awareness within your regions and communities. Thank you to our UN Women team for all your support. Once again, we're streaming across new live platforms today. Thank you to our champions. If you would like us to broadcast from a radio station in your community, let us know so we can empower and inspire more entrepreneurs around the globe. On that note, stay tuned. We got some very, very big news coming your way. So you definitely want to stay close to this news source. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, you're here to learn, and that's exactly what we're going to do. How it's going to work to make our VIPs feel as comfortable as possible. We're going to pose a question to our VIPs. We'd love to get your insights. If you would like to contribute to one of your co-panelists' thoughts, please feel free to. We want to learn from you. So everybody sit back, relax, and let's have some fun. Today's topic is a fascinating one. How do you know if the market is ready for your product or service? Let's jump on in and start learning. So, Satyam, I'm putting you on the spot. Satyam, wow. Let's do this thing. Yes. Sorry, no pressure. So the first place to start when deciding whether or not there is a market for your product or service is about your idea. Here's a really simple question. How do we come up with a good business idea? What are your thoughts? What's been your experience?
So I guess entrepreneurship is all about seeing the gaps. So while you're walking on the road, and especially in the context I live in, you walk around the city and you see everyone in this country is an entrepreneur. There's someone in a cart selling vegetables. There's someone else waiting for a cab. There's a bus driver who's coming and picking up the passengers. I guess the most important question we need to ask ourselves is, what is that gap which only we can see and not anyone else? And how do we create value around it? So in my particular case, I saw that a lot of young people in rural India are looking for job opportunities and they don't know how to go about it. And I picked that gap up, and that's what I'm working towards.
Thank you, Satyam. Great way to start today's session. Manan, you work with some very, very cool entrepreneurs around the globe. What's been your experience in terms of what we should bear in mind when coming up with business ideas?
Yes, Alysia, I think it's really, really important. I think the first step towards the business plan and understanding what are your essentially key resources, key activities, and key partners. These are the three important things as part of your business plan. That's an absolute must. And I think what does play a very important role is the mindset of the entrepreneur. Just having that sort of awareness in terms of what is he trying to achieve. So in terms of the objective and the market gap, as Satyam pointed out, that you're trying to analyze and get your product or service out there in the market, serving a sizable portion of the market.
Thank you, Manan. Saji, I know you've got some thoughts around this. Based on your experience, what's the best way to test the idea?
Well, I think if you analyze what your product or what you have an idea for to go pre-internet and post-internet. In other words, if you look at something that is an activity or a practical, has a utilitarian use pre-internet, and then within your team, you have the resources and the people who can understand to harness the available technology to transpose that pre-internet to a post-internet, then what's happening is that the pre-internet has data. It has a practical use. You can analyze it. You can see its history, its popularity, where that market is, what niche it takes on. And then again, within your team, you harness the technology and say, you know what, we can make this a better product. And you can identify that way within your pitch deck what that problem is, which is always one of the questions and title heads that, you know, what problem are you solving? Well, here's what the empirical data shows in terms of history pre-internet, and here's what we can do post-internet. We can make it quicker, faster, cheaper. It's a more enjoyable experience. It has a up-to-date usage. Those would be the things that you would take, that I would look at immediately, is to try to identify a pre-existing market so that your product already has an empirical data, fact-based history to it. That's certainly one way. The other way is where you come up with something completely new that takes on cultures moving into, you know, the 21st century. And as we go forward, you're coming up with something that embraces the harness technology. You harness the technology that's already there to create something that's brand new and you know, that is very disruptive. If you think of everything from Uber to all the way down to you know, the hydro energy people coming around with people looking at your meter, that can all be done now automatically. So that's an example of harnessing technology from pre to post.
Thanks, Soji.
Yeah.
Thank you. Awesome. Ibiwari, you live in Nigeria. It's one of the most exciting places in the world right now for tech startups. One of the issues many entrepreneurs face is that they're scared to share their ideas because they're scared people will steal them. What has been your experience working with women entrepreneurs in Nigeria in terms of this?
Oh, thank you, Alysia. There are a whole lot of things in Nigeria. Women are hamstrung by the following factors: cultural, gender limitations, and also self-limitations they have created for themselves because of the environment they find themselves. Aside from these, there are also insufficient entrepreneurial capacity building programs you can find that will help them. My experience with this woman shows that there is a need to have real entrepreneurial support that can help them build capacity. Now, one of the things that have helped so far is to create an environment that makes them begin to feel that there is no need about sharing, because together it's easier to work together than in silos. You bring your idea, someone else brings their idea, you put it together, and it can become something huge in the future.
Thank you, Ibiwari. Very interesting insights. Jose, you work with a lot of very exciting tech startups across Europe. What has been your experience in terms of encouraging entrepreneurs to share their ideas rather than keeping them to themselves in fear of having their ideas stolen? Have you been through this type of experience where ideas have been stolen?
Right. Actually, okay, of course ideas are important, but more important is how you execute them. And to bring them to the market, many times to collaborate with other entrepreneurs or even bigger companies, if you are able to get in touch with them and get support, is crucial, right, for quick success and even to attract investment. So in that sense, not only through the Founder Institute, but also through other entrepreneurial ecosystems like here in the technological parks or working for just private investors. And then we always encourage to share, if not everything, at least some part of your ideas or your business model with potential customers and even collaborators. And by experience, I can tell you that sometimes you can save, if not months, at least many weeks of work, because you can really direct the production of your software, or even if it's a physical product, in the right direction before you're ready to run out many products, money, energy, etc. To share ideas, because let's be honest, today with the internet, you can really find everything in a matter of seconds or hours. So, and I will say even that it's very common, especially in Silicon Valley, that many, even in Europe, many Europeans just look at models that are working there, and they just adapt those models to a certain country or region. And it's also a good way to deliver value to your customers without wasting too much time and energy.
Thank you, Jose. Manan, this is a follow-up question in terms of what Jose was saying. And as I say, you work with the cross-section of entrepreneurs. We as entrepreneurs don't like rejection, so we often ask people that are closest to us whether or not they like our idea, in the hope that they say yes. What are your thoughts in terms of asking people close to us versus asking strangers and potential customers what they really think of our business ideas?
I think, Alysia, I think the way to look at it is it's a sort of a twofold path. As I said in my answer earlier, I think the mindset of the entrepreneur is the key. The sort of the important point here is that the entrepreneur needs to have that kind of confidence in him, having been able to identify the right market. But and I also understand that there are some situations, and I've seen this with some of the ventures and entrepreneurs I've been fortunate to work with, where they've changed their focus, in terms of the market that they're serving, in the hope, as you rightly said, to get validation or sort of an approval from either the market that they're trying to serve or the investor. And I think the other side to this is that when entrepreneurs are having a conversation or are approaching investors, to sort of back their idea, they do it with a sense of hoping to gain a lot of feedback from their conversation, and not just readily agreeing in terms of everything that the investor has to point out to them in terms of their market. I have seen some very, very strong entrepreneurs who know exactly the market they're serving, and been involved in a lot of conversations where the investors have had doubts in terms of the defenseability concerns, which some of these points have been defended extremely well, and so these well fought conversations have given me a deeper insight into what these entrepreneurs are intending to do. So that's what I am always also looking out for in terms of these entrepreneurs, not someone who readily agrees with every point of view that I may have. And this shows the kind of market research they've done, or if they've come from such a background to be able to defend their idea.
Thank you, Manan. Fantastic insights. Saji, you came up with an idea, and you've had a very interesting journey because you've gone from being an investment banker to being an entrepreneur. Please, can you take us on your journey in terms of from coming up with the idea, how did you validate that there was a market for it?
Well, I think this last speaker hits it on the head. One of the really key points is a lot of entrepreneurs have a tremendous idea, and they're working in a very narrow sphere to make it work. And sometimes they can often overlook the defensibility of that idea as they are building the product. I think defensibility is key. It can come in many, many different ways. It can be intellectual property. It can be the uniqueness of the product as an extension of, as I said before, what's existed previously. And then what they've done to make it defensible. Now, it could be empirical data. In our particular case, we looked at the history of what we were trying to make and found that the popularity and that history was long-standing. And we noticed that the technology that was used to make it popular was very simple. And it hadn't changed much in 60, 70 odd years. And not only that, but we also realized that it crossed cultures. It had no boundaries. And so then we looked at the psychology of what made that particular model so popular, the psychology behind it. And then what we did was we made a couple of versions to do with some of the biggest markets on the planet, which was India and the USA. And actual fact, we also have outlines for Japan and China and Korea. But I think the thing that you start with is to be able to have a defensible product, because you have to understand your concept, your design, your content, and particularly after all of that is done, it's not worth a penny unless you have a very clever two-market strategy. And that two-market strategy is bound with and fraught with a lot of contradictions. When you go, when you go to a conference and you see booth after booth of marketing people with proprietary software selling you their product, you almost feel like you're in a used car lot. You really can't. It's hard to figure out, but which one will suit your particular product. But one of the common things within all of these people is that they'll say, make sure if you're going to go to market with your ad campaigns that you have something extremely unique, something that nobody else has. And the contradiction lies therein is that when you go in front of investors, one of the first things that the gatekeeper will tell you is make sure you don't say you don't have any competition. Because, so now you have a contradiction. So you have to say to yourself, okay, how do you square this up? You have, on the one hand, marketers telling you one of the ways to get noticed and to increase your quotient score, for example, with AdSense marketing, is to be able to say that your product is unique because A, B, and C. You get in front of an investor and he doesn't want to hear that. He thinks that you're naive.
Thank you, Sarji. Thank you, Sarji. We've just got a lot of questions to get through. Very interesting insights. Satyam, I imagine that in building your venture, in validating it upfront, you had a lot of objections. Could you talk to us about how you dealt with those objections and how did you validate your idea to keep going?
Thank you so much. So we started talking to a lot of young people, and we went with an assumption that that in a country like India, if you come up with a technology-based solution, you come up with an employment portal which will connect the youth in rural India to the employers, we solved the problem, because no one was thinking about the rural youth. Everyone was doing this in the urban cities. And certainly, like when we created a minimum viable product and started traveling in rural India. And first of the bottlenecks, we realized that even with the market, even when the internet penetration has increased in rural India and people are using internet on the smartphones, they are not using the browser. And I was shocked to see that, oh my God, no one is using a browser. And we were told to first develop a web portal and then develop a mobile app. So we spent 3 months working on an assumption that a portal which will be in regional language will be a hit. And suddenly we were stuck with this reality that no one is using a browser, and so they are not going to use the portal, and we need to come up with a mobile app. So I guess assumption is the most destructive word when you're starting a new venture, and you need to measure and you need to validate. And reflecting on our journey, we should have done this in the first 2 weeks rather than waiting for 2 months to develop the portal.
Fantastic insight, Satyam. Thank you for sharing. And Jose, following up with what Satyam was talking about, the concept of a minimum viable product, building a prototype. As I say, you work with a lot of university startups. funds are limited. What suggestions do you have for our entrepreneurs where if you have to build some sort of prototype to take to the market to test your idea, what do you tell your entrepreneurs to do where it doesn't cost too much money, but they can actually show something to their potential customers?
Right, absolutely correct. It depends also, of course, on the cost of producing a product. But if it's a physical one, even in that case, you can always build up some simple prototype that you can test, or at least show to your potential customers or partners, and they will always share with you if it's going in the right direction or not. And it gives you already the first, if not metrics, at least insights about what the market really needs. When it's software, especially apps, usually it's much easier, right? You can, for almost no cost, build up some mockups that you can play around a bit with. And in that case, it's absolutely mandatory, I would say, to build them up before you are spending some resources and money in social media or the campaigns you could have in mind. So from my experience, if I have to start with other entrepreneurs or myself, some companies, especially in the digital sphere, I would really recommend to build some mockups quickly and with no cost, and then based on the insights, just to invest in the minimum viable product that can be that can bring money to the organization.
Thank you, Jose. I'm coming back to that right now. I think Ibiwari actually has some thoughts, and then we've touched on something very interesting. Jose, Ibiwari, please share your thoughts here.
Okay, on the issue of the MVP, the minimum viable product, when I developed a product I felt would be very helpful to secondary schools to be able to help them with the concept of entrepreneurship, that will bridge the gap between what is taught in school and entrepreneurship. I sought to get a buy-in from the education department for them to see the necessity, because since they are the supervisory authorities that will approve such a product. So I went through them first, and I also got through to the schools who were willing to participate in this program. So I think it helps to get on your side the authorities or the parties you feel will help push or encourage you in trying to push your product or service to the market.
Thank you, Ibiwari, and you actually touched on the question that I was about to ask all of you. So would you have classified the schools as your first paying customer, Ibiwari?
Oh yes, definitely, because at that point I will get, because I had to do, since we started that, every school I write gets interested to get to know, even though it's at this stage is still a free product being tested yet. But the essence, the interest shows that yes, this can be something, if I want to develop further, that is going to bring in a whole lot of money.
Thank you, Ibiwari. Now, this is really critical, I think, for all our entrepreneurs. And Manan, I know you work with a lot of tech startups. The idea of finding a first customer before building out your technology and then digging deeper whether or not the customer actually pays. We'd love your thoughts. Based on your experience with your entrepreneurs, can you share any insights in terms of the first customer versus building this minimum viable product?
Absolutely, Alysia. I have been fortunate enough to, as a work with very, very interesting startups globally, and entrepreneurs that, in some cases, that have determined what their target market is. So the business could be a B2B or a B2C or a B2B2C model, or a P2P model, and in some of these cases, where the venture is still sort of building up, it's still in its processing phase. They are completing the setup for the MVP, and they already have lined up their first customers. That I think has come from the fact that the network is very strong first. And I think one of the other reasons is that they are able to point out to the early customers what problem and what is the pain point that they are solving, and I think that makes a lot of difference across a lot of different industries. It could, let's say, be the real estate industry. It could be the logistics space, where some of these enterprises, large enterprises, small or medium enterprises as well, have their own pain points. And when a venture, an entrepreneur comes along and says, here's my product, here's the pain point I will be solving. We will have the MVP. It's not ready, but we'll have the product ready in about 30 to 60 days from now. How about would you like to sign up with us? And the response has been fantastic. With some of these ventures, I can confidently say that a lot of the businesses are always excited, and they always also want to adapt to the digital space, to the tech space, improve their own platforms by running pilots with the newer players and the emergence in the market. And that, again, is sort of a positive reinforcement for the entrepreneur and the venture.
Thank you, Manan. Saji, we'd love to hear your thoughts based on all your experience. And as I say, you see it from an investor's perspective, given your background. Do you believe it's a good idea to first find a customer before fully building out your product? What has been your experience in this regard?
Okay, I just missed you just can you repeat that again, please?
Sure. So based on your experience, both as a banker as well as an entrepreneur now, do you believe it's a good idea to first find a customer before building out the product, or building it out and then going to find the customer? What is work best for you and the entrepreneurs you surround yourself with?
Well, I mean, the second part of your question is answerable by, if you build it, they will come. That's certainly a much larger gamble. In our case, we're a business to consumer, P2P, pay to play. We did not do it that way. What we did is we took incremental steps, beta or piloted it 3 different times, and we had a questionnaire that went out with it to get response back, and from that response, we made the transformative changes that we found that were common across the 3 different small pilot steps that we took. And from there, we incorporated that into what is now the 4th iteration. And then we also did some spot stuff where we went to a university and took a different discipline. So we would take people, say, in 4th year sciences or graduate students, and then we would go over to the English department, the liberal arts, and we would run the questionnaire by these people. We would do 20 at a time. And we would find out what was common, what was not common, and we were able to get a sample field of what worked and what did not work. And so that's one of the things that I would say. If you, as I say, if you go to it, you build it and they will come. You're taking a big gamble. You have to be a pretty strong-minded person to think that you found something through all your research that, and it does happen. You hit the big win if you do it that way. But the more practical way would be to do it in small incremental beta or pilot testing.
Great insights. You can see you've done your research. Satyam, would you like to add something to what Saji was saying?
Yeah, I guess I agree with him. I think we also first of all, we started out thinking that we have identified a clear gap and a need, and if we have a product, the product would be successful. And very soon in that journey, in 2 months, we realized that we haven't done enough research and we haven't done enough pilot. So one day, me and my team, we sat and we decided, why don't we pitch a consultancy project to a company which is working with a lot of young people from disadvantaged background? And it took us a while, but we got a contract to work with 5,000 young people. And that contract gives us access to 5,000 of our customers offline. So we sort of changed our strategy and decided that we will go from offline to online. And the user journey will help us a lot in creating a product while working with these young people together. So bringing in the customer lens, I think we applied human-centered design. And we also decided that we'll not just apply it for like a month or two. We decided that that's what we are going to do for the next 12 months. So that has been working well for us now. So the question is when to pivot and when to preserve.
Thank you, Satya. And something that's becoming evidently clear from what all of you are saying is research is critical. And I know Ibiwari wants to add something here. So Ibiwari, please go ahead.
Yeah, so what I've done so far is to identify a need in the women fold who are entrepreneurs. So what we did was to design a program to kind of address the pain point. And that in designing that program, we took into consideration the group of women who benefit or who are experiencing this problem. So we created a training program which served as a platform to hear about these problems, these pain points. So the process of learning is very important to be able to create the product. So I quite agree with the concept of identifying the problem before you create the solution as a fastest means of succeeding. So having identified the problems they have, we are at the stage of sitting back and designing what we think will fit them, and we provide the solution they need. Yes, so it's good to know what the problem is before you go ahead to create.
Thank you, Ibiwari, and you've touched on some very important points. Sergeant, did you want to add something there?
Yeah, I'd like to add something. The idea of identifying the problem, particularly because your speaker was talking about education. You know, our app is, in a sentence, is a new way to learn. And the way we came up with it was that we had gone to TED Talks where Dr. Jane McGonigal had said that kids in the USA from grade 3 to grade 12 spend as much time playing games as they do in the actual physical classroom. And her thesis was that, you know, games should be able to change the world through education. So, you know, we looked at that and we thought, and then I thought to myself personally, the most engaging teachers I had over the course of primary school, high school, and university education. And one of the common things that I had was that teachers can keep you engaged if they provide humor or satire and parodies.
Thank you, Sergeant. We're just running out of time. I'm so sorry. There's just some critical questions we got to just run through here. I know our community wants our VIP's thoughts. Jose, there's something we'd love to hear from you from a European context. We've talked about solving a problem. We've talked about a minimum viable product. We've talked about constant learning. We've talked about pivoting. In Silicon Valley, investors say that you can't approach them for funding unless you have a product. You've got to be able to show them something, otherwise they're not giving you any money. We would love to hear from you in terms of a European context, and then of course from our other panelists. In Europe, is this the case? Do you need some type of minimum viable product before you can even approach investors for funding?
Well, generally speaking, in Europe, I think it's pretty the same. Even I would add that Europe is more conservative in that sense. I think probably also because there is less money than in the States, especially there in the Silicon or the New York area. And nevertheless, there are always ways to find some money if you really need it, right, for the first MVP. In that sense, as you know, in Europe, there are many public institutions as well helping entrepreneurs from scratch, where you can get not only services but also some cash to build something, let's say, to survive by yourself and maybe a team member that is key, like usually a CTO or similar role. So the problem probably comes later on when you really need money to speed up, right? Market acquisition, and then we are not talking about a few thousands, but sometimes a little bit more. And then it's when they start to ask for metrics. But okay, this is maybe something to discuss about later. Right?
Thank you so much, Jose. Manan, we would love to hear your insights in terms of the fact that you're based in Monaco, you're based in India. In both these locations, do you first have to have a minimum viable product before you can even consider going to investors?
Yes, I sort of agree on that subject. Understanding fully well that a lot of investors out there today, I mean, although there's a considerable amount of dry powder available across the globe, investors are not so keen on putting their money down, for ideas, I mean, for ventures that are still at, they have an idea, they have an intended market, and are only still developing a product. You definitely need, again, a great amount of risk appetite amongst these sort of investors that look to put down the money on ventures that are still building an MVP or, just have a blueprint of the larger vision that they have. What also does tend to happen is that a lot of angel investors are also not, happy to sort of back such ventures at a very initial stage, unless the entrepreneur has a significant amount of experience in that specific industry, or has a lot of experience operationally, and I think understanding who the entrepreneur is and what is his sort of larger network does play a very important factor in this process.
Manan, you've touched on something really, really important there that we'd love to explore further. Satyam, could you talk to us about exactly what Manan is saying, that if you are, for example, a first-time entrepreneur going to investors, this issue of a minimum viable product, the role of experience and how much it counts for to convince them to actually back you. Please share your thoughts in terms of the Indian context.
Thank you, Manan. I completely agree with Manan. So I think investors do look at you as an entrepreneur. They look at the management team, because no one can win the battle on its own. So the stronger the team, the better it gets.
We lost you there, Satyam. Are you still there? Satyam? We seem to have lost Satyam. Jose, any insights you'd like to add here in terms of the experience of investors, in terms of instilling that sense of confidence when it comes to getting money from investors with regard to getting money to get going?
Right. What we see here is that more and more, let's say, like investors see that they have some exits that were quite fine. I'm talking about the general business angel or venture capital. They really are looking for businesses that have an MVP or already solid product, right? That can be launched in the market. And most cases, they are looking for initial metrics, or at least letter of intents that they can believe on. The thing, of course, is important, no doubt about that. And even, okay, for one of the startups I'm now working for, right? They were able even to raise more than 1 million with a prototype only. But it was because of the support of some big companies behind that business, okay? Not only because of the entrepreneur or even management team. But in general conditions, in most cases, what I see is that most entrepreneurs here in Europe, they ask for very soft loans given by public institutions that can last for 10 years and sometimes a grace period of 3 years or something like that. They are enough for you to build something and then prove the concept in the market.
Jose, I'm going to jump in there. I know Manan's got something to add, but I'd love to hear more about this from you on behalf of our community. You mentioned that some of these entrepreneurs raise funding because they've got the support of big companies. Were those big companies their customers, or were they corporate venture capital arms of big companies that were actually giving funding to these entrepreneurs? Please tell us more, because I think the role of big companies in enabling our entrepreneurs to get to the next stage is becoming more and more important. We'd love to hear your insights.
Yes, absolutely. Probably, okay, the States is always a bit ahead, or Israel, a bit ahead of Europe, right? Except into maybe London and okay, some parts in Sweden and they're there in Berlin. But what we see in the last, especially 3 years, is traditional companies with still a lot of cash, but not growing very, very, very rapidly anymore. That they are trying to collaborate with the startup environment somehow. Sometimes it's through co-innovation, what is very difficult because of the management styles in those large companies. And most of the time it's just investing in what they think is most promising companies in their sector, helping for 6 or 12 months to deliver a proper product and test in the market. And then if successful, they really, whether incorporate it or just investing us in some applications or stock and help them to go to the market.
Thank you, Jose. And I think we need to have a fireside chat specifically on that topic in terms of how big companies today need to collaborate with our young entrepreneurs and our entrepreneurs to give them that competitive advantage. So thank you for sharing your insights there. I know Manan's got some insights he wants to share here too. Manan, please go ahead.
Thanks, Alysia. Thanks, Jose, for that wonderful insight as well. And then just touching back on the point I was making earlier, as well as what Satyam was talking about before he got cut off. I think one of the key things here is that the entrepreneur has to back himself up tremendously, because he's going to have so much coming in his way in terms of feedback from early customers, from the number of investors he's going to go out and talk to. But he has to tremendously back himself and the idea and the market he intends on targeting and achieving a successful product in. I think the most easier sort of and the most wonderful example to see in this is Twitter, for example, which was a spin-off to Odeo, which was a podcast software business which failed because Apple came out with its podcast, and Twitter was and just an idea at that point of time, and all the investors that were backing the Odeo venture refused and weren't interested in knowing and backing Twitter at that time. Today, looking back at that, I think one of those earlier investors from Odeo would be disappointed in perhaps not being able to see what Twitter was as a product. So as an entrepreneur, you really got to back yourself.
Thank you, Manan. No. Fascinating insights. Satyam, we'd love to hear your insights from India in terms of how big companies are helping entrepreneurs kind of get to the next stage, help them succeed.
Yes. So I guess we have touched upon this topic in the past, that how the big companies, I think Manan mentioned, big companies are also willing to learn a lot from the startup entrepreneurs. So I guess innovation is the key. So till the time you can go with an innovative idea or you can identify a gap in the existing market and propose a solution, the big companies are willing to listen. So the example I was giving where we got a contract to work with 5,000 young people. We actually got that contract from one of the largest tech companies in the country. And they were interested in the solution we were proposing because we were proposing a more long-term holistic solution, which they haven't, and they wanted to support us in that journey and see how we'll go about it. So they gave us an option for a pilot. And I guess identifying your key differentiator and value proposition is very important, and everyone in the ecosystem will be there to support you.
Great insights. Now we have a challenging question from our community for our experts. And Jose, we're going to ask you first, and we'd love all your insights. Unfortunately, our time is running out, so please keep your thoughts as short as possible. So one of our community questions is, experts say that there are 5 categories currently trending. These are in construction, in agronomy, in robotics, in real estate, and in batteries and charging. In your opinion, Jose, what industries are currently trending? Maybe you can give us some thoughts here.
Right. Okay, all of them, indeed, they are very important at the moment. What I see here is a hype, especially the last year, about robotics. but not robotics just in the terms of, let's say, as a substitute of human talent or human workers to the activities, but any kind of automated process that can be integrated in what they call now Industry 4.0, right? Even startups that at the beginning they were basically working only on managing big data or just to facilitate some e-commerce or interactions between people and businesses, more and more now, also with some not only private but public sponsorship, are moving through solutions that can be automated and integrated in the so-called Industry 4.0.
Thank you, Jose. Absolutely fascinating insights. As quickly as possible, we're going to go around our panel. Sarji, what's trending in your world?
Well, I think artificial intelligence is, and/or robotics is getting a lot of traction right now for investors, for sure. I would say for your listeners that are there on your earlier question in terms of whether a venture capital firm will look at an idea. One of the things that they've come up, really not at all, because they are looking more for consolidation within a particular industry. But one of the things that they have come up with is that if they like an idea, they ask you to put it on something like Kickstarter to see if it has any traction. So that's an idea for you. In terms of corporation sponsorship, one of the new funds that's out there is by Samsung. It's called Next, N-E-X-T. And, I would encourage people to look at that and see if there's a dovetail between what their idea is and what the mandate is for the Samsung's platform of Next.
Thank you, Sarji. Fascinating insights. Manan, what's trending in your world? What's the next big exciting area to be playing in?
Alysia, I think prop tech, real estate tech is now sort of the key area in terms of what's trending. But of all the other sectors that you mentioned earlier, I think the common underlying industry that you actually have to look at, from the larger perspective and the larger picture, is infrastructure. I think infrastructure globally is now being looked at as a platform where technology needs to come in, because just as an example, Merck Industries in logistics and shipping, they've privately been running a lot of pilots with some sort of small tech companies on how to improve their logistics and improve their services. So I think infrastructures globally, be it real estate, be it the logistics industries, be any of these construction industries, even agriculture, for example, I think that's one of the key foundations to any economy today. So I think these are definitely some of the trending industries.
Thanks, Manan. Unfortunately, we're all running out of time, guys. Satyam, what's trending?
So very quickly, I think Manan touched upon a lot of things which are trending in urban India. So I would just quickly say education, food tech, financial products, real estate. He talked about it. And also to add, I think if we are going through an exciting time in India right now where internet is penetrating massively in the rural communities. So certainly we have 400 million plus mobile internet users in India. And soon that's growing at 20% every year. So I think a lot of people are looking at agriculture and other products and services which can cater to the rural economy and the market as the next big thing in the next 5 years.
Awesome insights. Ibiwari, as quickly as possible, we want to hear it, but we just want to run through our last remaining things for our session. What's trending in Nigeria?
Yeah. Nigeria has 150 million internet users. So you find the trend in web-based business. There's a lot of web-based business rising, such as e-commerce. Many companies are selling their products online. So many entrepreneurs have emerged who build apps for online businesses. So
Awesome. Thank you, Ibiwari. Now we're going to ask our experts to please prepare their tweet piece of advice while we just go through our upcoming session. sessions. Guys, let's just do this. So our upcoming sessions are this next coming Wednesday. What is your strategy for acquiring and keeping your customers? This is one you definitely don't want to miss. Then for our investor sessions next Sunday, your board and how to keep them managed and happy, even when you are missing your sales targets. And then following up from that at the end of the month, how to start a company with no free time and make it work and actually successful. We're going to be hearing some successful stories from both investors and entrepreneurs. So that's definitely what you don't want to be missing out on. Now we're going to ask our experts to please go ahead and share their tweet piece of advice, starting with Jose. Jose, please share your tweet piece of advice.
Basically, everything you do, keep your customers in the center. Whether it's an idea, prototype of product, talk to them.
Fantastic advice, Manan. Please, can you give us your tweet piece of advice? We seem to have lost Manan.
Hi, Alysia. Yes.
Go for it, Manan. Welcome back.
Sorry. Yes, as I was saying, I think the key is do your homework, lay the foundation right, understand, be aware of your mindset and your risk appetite, and plan. Planning is sort of the key in understanding your customer and market.
Said by a true entrepreneur. Thank you, Satyam. Tell us your tweet piece of advice.
So I think one of the most destructive word in a product development or a service while you are establishing a new venture is assumption. So don't assume anything. Rigorously measure every product assumption and create a customer-centric culture.
Love it. Ibiwari, give us your tweet piece of advice.
No matter what you do or how good your product is, it can only succeed when consumers are willing to pay for it.
Very good advice. Thank you, Ibiwari. Saji, please give us your tweet piece of advice.
I would say for entrepreneurs to be in the field where you have strong passion, and the money will come. Okay, don't have it the other way. I'm looking for money. If you have a passion for what you're doing, everything else will fall into place.
Spectacular advice, guys. On behalf of our entire community, you've all given us spectacular advice. To our entrepreneurs, make those customers and all your exciting news. We love hearing from you. We love highlighting your success. Our VIP guests are all on LinkedIn, as am I, and our community champions. We want to hear from you. We want to hear how you're succeeding and how you're learning and growing. Don't forget, if you enjoyed today's session and you know entrepreneurs who can benefit from our fireside chats, remember to keep sharing our invitations because we're trying to reach our 100-country goal. Before we sign off, I'm going to ask all our panelists to scream bye on the count of 3. Thank you to everyone for a truly, truly, truly amazing session. You got to keep hustling, never give up. Panelists, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Scream bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys. See you soon.